Well, the unity of the force between the South Sudanese Defense Forces and the SPLA-IO has fractured in Abyei, and 14 people have lost their lives. 400 SPLA-IO troops have vacated the camp that they were sharing with the South Sudanese Defense Forces and gone north. All this because of a love triangle. It is not associated in any way with politics, but because of a love triangle. Well, that is the story that I'm going to tell you in this video. What exactly happened in this disputed region of Abyei that led to the loss of lives of the 14 troops, as well as heightened tensions and many civilians fleeing for their lives. Well, this is Bonafide. If you haven't subscribed, kindly subscribe and hit that notification button so that when I release something new on South Sudan, you get notified as soon as possible. Well, tensions have escalated in Abyei in the latest conflict between the SPLA-IO and the South Sudanese Defense Forces. More than 100 civilians, mostly women and children, have been evacuated by the UN peacekeepers from the village of Malwal Aleu in the disputed Abyei region. These clashes involved the South Sudanese Defense Forces and the SPLA-IO. The evacuated civilians were taken to the UN's UNISFA, that is the United Nations Interim Security Force for Abyei peacekeeping base in Kathian, where they are receiving shelter, food, water, and medical care. That is the report that has been released by the United Nations Interim Security Force for Abyei, that there have been conflict in that Abyei region between the SPLA-IO and the South Sudanese Defense Forces that has led to the loss of lives of 14 troops and has made many civilians to flee their homes because of these heightened tensions. Now, the South Sudanese Army has released a statement through their spokesperson to explain what exactly happened that led to the loss of lives of these troops, as well as the heightened tensions. Also, what has led to the 400 troops of the SPLA-IO leaving the joint force to go to a different region because of these heightened tensions. Well, the spokesperson of the Sudanese Army noted that these clashes began over a misunderstanding between two officers, possibly involving a dispute at a tea shop over a woman. It is alleged that a second lieutenant of the SPLA-IO and a captain in the South Sudanese Defense Forces were both in an affair with one woman. The lieutenant found the captain speaking with his wife, and that is where all this conflict started. The lieutenant fired a shot against the captain that led to the immediate loss of life of that captain. Now, all this now spiraled into a bigger conflict after the bodyguards of both of these leaders fired against each other, and now this spiraled into a much larger conflict. The clash spread from a market to a checkpoint and finally to the barracks, resulting to the death of 14 servicemen, 8 from the South Sudanese Defense Forces and 6 from the SPLA-IO. Now, the situation has been made further worse when 400 of the former SPLA-IO troops vacated from the barracks that they were sharing jointly with the South Sudanese Defense Forces. This was an integrated force. Remember, in the revitalized agreement, there was that clause that there needs to be a unified force in South Sudan, that there should not be the South Sudanese Defense Forces and the SPLA-IO both having arms and fighting against each other. There is a need to have a unity government and a unified force. Now, these particular barracks had a unified force where there were former SPLA troops who were integrated to the South Sudanese Defense Forces. But right now, from that violence that occurred in Abyei region, 400 of the former SPLA-IO troops have now vacated that barracks and they have moved north towards the Abyei administrative area. Now, this can lead to an international crisis. Why am I saying this? Because Abyei is a disputed region between Sudan and South Sudan. This region is rich in oil and grazing land. Both countries claim it, and tensions often flare between local Dinka and Ngok that are linked to South Sudan and Miseria that are linked to Sudan. Well, no single country has yet claimed administrative authority over the Abyei region. And that is the reason as to why a flare-up in this particular region is causing a lot of tensions between Sudan and South Sudan, and of course internally between forces in South Sudan. Further, Abyei is also supposed to be a demilitarized zone because according to the 2011 agreement that was brokered by the African Union and the United Nations, Abyei should be a demilitarized zone. No force should have any kind of authority in Abyei, be it from Sudan or South Sudan. This particular area or region is fully administered by the United Nations, and most of the volunteer troops of the United Nations in Abyei are from Ethiopia. Now, this provides an example of how a small clash in South Sudan can result into a major clash that can even go international to affect another country, because this small love triangle between a second lieutenant of the SPLA-IO and the South Sudanese Defense Forces captain has now led to the loss of lives of 14 troops, and many have now been rendered homeless because of the heightened tensions that are now threatening to go even beyond borders. Well, this also provides a case study of the conflicts that we have been discussing here time and time again, of the SPLA-IO fighting against the South Sudanese Defense Forces. It turns out that not all of these clashes are politically motivated, and some are localized and others are personal, as it was in this case, that a simple love triangle has now led to heightened tensions and even the breaking of the unified force between the South Sudanese Defense Forces and the SPLA-IO. Well, I will continue to keep you updated of the latest of what will come out from South Sudan, Abyei region, after the 400 troops of the SPLA-IO have now moved up north and heightened tensions continue in this disputed region. Keep it bona fide.